It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Happy Halloween. Well, Trump either has a second job besides McDonald's, or he's dressed for Halloween, or he decided, hey, let's have fun with the whole garbage comment. And he did, and it was pretty funny yesterday, the garbage truck and everything else. We'll get into more of that. But there was a unifying message that he had last night.
What we have built is the biggest, broadest, most incredible coalition and the greatest political movement in the history of our country. It's made up of hardworking men and women who make this country run, who really built this country. Originally, we have brought together veterans and union members, soldiers and steel workers, farmers and auto workers, and patriotic moms and dads of every race, religion, color, and creed. We're welcoming historic numbers of African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and Arab Americans. And we're uniting Christians and Jews, Catholics and evangelicals, Muslims and Mormons, and everyone who simply wants to do one thing: make America great again.
What about the Dutch? I'm sorry.
There's only two kinds of people I can't stand: people who are intolerant of other people's cultures, and the Dutch.
I'm reading the crawl here.
Yeah.
Trump,
that sounded very Hitler-esque, did it not?
Yeah, Trump dons trash man uniform at Wisconsin rally.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's I was just thinking as he's going through and actually talking about how the demographics, some of those demographics along the political demographics that they look at, a number of those are shifting. We talked about older white voters, which you and I connect with for some reason.
Or at least I do.
Yeah. But you look at those demographics, and he spells it out. If you're listening to that, it's not a Hitler-esque moment. But I can see MSNBC going crazy saying he focused on race again. All right. Okay. All right. But they know as well. These people are activists, but they see it. This is why they're so bitter. This is why they're so desperate right now. I was telling you during a break, one of the breaks earlier, if he wins the popular vote, I'm saying if he wins the popular vote, that will be insane after all that they have thrown at him. Think about that. What do you do if you're Alvin Bragg and he wins the popular vote? I mean, everybody on the left and in the leftist activist media, I don't know if crying will even describe it.
I don't think to them it'll matter whether he wins the Electoral College or the popular vote. They're just going to be infuriated if it happens.
Well, my point is that they'll see everything that they have thrown at him.
Yeah.
And like Alvin Bragg, look, that night when the conviction came down on those 34 counts, they had their little parade moment. As they were having that moment, his grassroots donations were shutting his website down. And it was the building of the martyr. And Alvin Bragg had to be looking around going, what happened? I just did what you guys told me. I just did what you guys told me. It's like that one Marine in A Few Good Men. Hal, what am I supposed to do? They don't understand. There is no self-awareness. At any time, Alvin Bragg thought he was going to be the hero until he wasn't. I don't know how many boomerangs you have to throw and get hit by to learn a lesson, but they don't. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to change who they are. It just makes you wonder, well, what level would they go to? It really is insanity right now. But if he wins the popular vote, it's also going to send a message as to how there is a shift in the country. I don't know how long-lasting that shift is going to be. But it will be a definitive, seismic shift during the Trump era. And it will be in his favor, of course.
There's a couple of things to look at here as to where we're going as a country. Just, forget about the election forget about the actual election, but you can't because part of it has to deal with the election. But to see the toxicity that is gone, and it's gone. Otherwise, you wouldn't have 4 Democrat senators. We're not talking about House members that might be viewed as more radical or could, jump or flip-flop, whatever. We're talking about 4 Democrat incumbent senators who are using Trump in their ads in a positive way to let the public know we stand with Trump on these issues. I mean, that's pure. And every one of them voted to impeach him. You don't see that in politics. I can't even fathom the last time something like that ever happened in American politics. We talked about earlier when I was telling you that the well-known liberal feminist Naomi Wolf now backs Trump because he's more inclusive. I mean, it's the identity politics is out there now. I do believe that if Trump wins, they have to realize, okay, that's the next thing that we have to go after. We have to go after that now that we have more Hispanics and blacks that are voting for us, now that we have built more of a coalition, and it's obvious because liberals have said, you're more inclusive, it's time to go on the attack for identity politics, and it's time to be blunt about it.
Right.
And it's time to come out and say, like we've always said, we've said for years, you're judging people by groups and not individuals, you're a racist. Stop it. And it's mainstream within the Democratic Party. But when you look at, all these things that are happening, when you see, because there's been, I thought about this with Jeff Besos and what happened at the Washington Post. And again, the editor's basically putting down the message from Besos, if you don't like it, quit. Get out.
Right.
If you don't like it. But you think about it. Been a couple of articles written on it. I'm just tapping into what I got out of both the articles. There's really 3 people, and all in the private sector, that have made huge, absolutely, well, 2 of them at least, the third is to see, but absolutely created huge movements and recognition of what has been happening in this country over the last few years. One is Riley Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
Riley Gaines, a swimmer, who's out there every single day, pounding on Democrats. And what did she give up? She gave up her private life completely. She was forced out into the public because of the misogyny of the Democrats.
Yeah.
Because of the radical transgender movement, because of the intimidation, the bullying, the threats that the Democrats all agree with if men can't compete against women. You and I said it for the longest time. When you and I were one of the few even conservative talk show hosts talking about this on a consistent basis, and even, yes, some of our listeners would say, guys, this isn't going to go anywhere. You're making too much of it. Nobody's going to let men compete in women's sports. No one's going to allow men into women's private areas. No one, feminism isn't going to die, liberal feminism, because of this. Liberal feminists are never going to allow men to define what a woman is. Well, they did.
Yep.
And so that's number one. Number two is Elon Musk and what he did. What did Elon Musk lose? Billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Billions and billions of dollars is what he was willing to give up in order to defend free speech. Now you have Jeff Besos doing the same thing when it comes to the media and where the media has gone. Now, I gave the first two a lot of credit. The third, still, it was pretty impressive what he did already. But obviously he knows he's not an idiot. He knew he was going to lose money on this. And he knows that whether the Washington Post stay the way that they were or go in this new direction of being fair, of attempting to be fair, we're going to lose money no matter what. But he's willing to lose money in order to set the example of what he believes journalism is.
Well,
that's pretty impressive.
Well, and
those three,
and could it be a reset? I mean, the full story on X for Elon Musk is still yet to be written, and how they can monetize things and how they can maybe rebuild the valuation on X, or how it might build slowly over years. Again, only time will tell on that. But with Bezos, you look at the nature of what he's done with Amazon. What is it? Well, I've called him the world's greatest concierge. What do you need? You need a pencil? Okay, I'll have it on your doorstep in the morning. What do you need? You want to watch a movie? Okay, I'll take care of that for you. And, those kind of things, when it comes to the media, it could well be that same approach. Look, we want a balanced approach at the Washington Post. Now, for all of us conservatives, just saying that out loud would have you laughing. But maybe that's, again, the approach is, I'll lose money at first, but I'm going to have to build a real media house if I'm going to do something long-term and appeal to a broader audience. Do I want to own something that is just over here in this liberal corner? Because it's not going to work. If in order to rebuild the media in general for newspapers, well, the hard copy thing is all but gone. So then what do you have? Well, you got a paywall that you need people to have a subscription. Well, you got to give them a reason to subscribe. Content is everything. So you're going to have to cater to a much wider base, because otherwise it's not going to get you there. And maybe that's his approach, and it's not so much, a conservative movement, but it still serves the public if indeed it turns out in the future, there is real journalism being done at the Washington Post. Again, only time will tell that.
At the minimum, it is the recognition by another billionaire that the censoring of ideas is not a good idea.
Well, and you can't exclude his move to Florida. Leaving the West Coast, there's a reason. You get out of the high tax area and you go to a lower tax state. They do that for a reason. Now, many liberal billionaires do that all the time, and it doesn't necessarily mean a fundamental shift. But, again, it certainly is worth the observation that there is a change in the thought there of how things are going to go in the future.
But it's also, go ahead.
There's always going to be your MSNBC. When you have Anderson Cooper throwing MSNBC under the liberal bus, which is an effort to try and position himself as a journalist, which is laughable. But but they understand, he knows in that moment, look, they're going to cater to her. Now, I think, frankly, it's less of him trying to come off as a journalist and more of him saying to his audience, I am not dying on the Kamala Harris hill. There might be some liberals along the way that I'm willing to go to battle for. She's not one of them because she's not competent. That's just me. But there is a shift. There is something going on right now. And if the indicators hold, then it will point to a broader shift. You and I talk about Michael Rappaport. There's a reason that people, and the reason that we keep jumping back to him is how hell-bent he was as a liberal, how furious and angry he was as a liberal and all of these things he's waking up to. We talked about at the end of last hour, talked about how do you explain the crazy things that the liberals are doing in a truthful manner without sounding crazy yourself?
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Approaching the final month of the 2024 hurricane season, both in the Atlantic and Pacific basins, USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey looks at what could possibly transpire. Starting with,
we are monitoring in the Caribbean Sea the potential for a low pressure system developing sometime over the next 4 or 5 days.
Yet with a weather pattern change over the U.S. mainland this week,
that should act to help keep any tropical development away from the mainland United States.
With any system developing in the Caribbean, traveling in a north by northeast path.
At the same time, we do have an interesting area that is active across the eastern Pacific Ocean, well southeast of Hawaii. And over the next week or so, that system has about a 40% chance of developing into a tropical depression or a tropical storm.
With the possibility of that system drifting towards the Hawaiian Islands. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I guess my final point on what I was talking about with Jeff Besos, and you look at what Riley Gaines did, you look at what Elon Musk did, and the amount of money he lost, how she gave up her private life. She did not want to be a public figure. That was not her goal. She became a public figure. You know as well as I do, she's gotten death threats, you name it, she's gone through it. What it shows, and again, where Bezos is going to go, what I see right now looks like he's trying to go on the right path. As you said, that's to be seen. But already what he has done is huge because she has gone after and given total legitimacy to women fighting the misogyny, the insane misogyny of the radical transgender movement. Elon Musk, as Jonathan Turley said, probably the biggest promoter of free speech in ages.
Yeah.
When you look at it, to stop, and because of the government censoring, and you've seen now some of the stuff coming out from the IRS whistleblowers, that for a year and a half, the FBI was trying to figure out how to ensure that the laptop story didn't come out. Mm-hmm. And so you see that. And then the same thing with Bezos coming out. His whole thing is about not censoring ideas, about being a newspaper and or a media outlet and letting all ideas come out. And he's willing to lose a ton of money because it's not only that they're doing the right thing and promoting things that we wish to see in the Constitution, they're sacrificing something big for it.
Well, and it is a definite shift. Because, look, if you're doing that, these are individuals who have all of their professional lives taken nothing but calculated risks. That calculation is key at this level, whether it's Bezos or Elon Musk. Those calculations are everything. You have to have, for them, you have to have the long-term vision. And that's, I guess, one thing that could be encouraging if it does play out that way long-term is that they see this as a shift as to what the public wants from what it is they're providing. And I really hope this is long-term.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, just want to finish the point that I was trying to make, that when you look at Riley Gaines, when you look at Elon Musk, and now Jeff Besos, and again, we're in the preliminary stages of whatever he's going to do with the Washington Post, but each have shown that in order to get this country back to what's right and what's constitutional, they have to sacrifice a lot. It's a great message for the leaders of a movement to show the public they are willing to sacrifice, and they're willing to sacrifice a lot. So that's all I wanted to say about that, because I think those three things are huge. Remember, two of the people making the major changes, especially when it comes to freedom of speech, are billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you ready for our audio cut of the day?
All right.
All right. CNN having a panel discussion, and they had a break. They had a break for breaking news.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe he went to the same high school that I went to. I just can't believe it. My high school taught critical thinking. Apparently,
Well,
he didn't learn it. But
Yeah.
Here we go. That's for another time, but here we go.
Interrupt you for a moment. Stand by for a moment. Trump is answering some questions from reporters.
Joe Biden to make that statement, it's really a disgrace.
So they cut. It's a panel, and then all of a sudden they cut, and there's Trump in the cab. He's in the garbage truck doing the press conference from the passenger side.
did the PAC buy actual airtime at CNN? I mean, it's breaking news.
And it's him in a garbage truck.
Between that and Bill Clinton pointing out that the economy was better under Trump.
Yeah, you ready for that one? All right.
All right.
That has to be the co-audio cut of the day.
Yeah.
All right, here's it.
I don't think it's right to say that people have to vote for Donald Trump because the economy is better there. I don't believe that.
And the audience like, what?
What?
We just asked, where was he yesterday? We hadn't seen him, and all of a sudden he appears. just because the economy was better.
This might give me some points with Carrie Lake, maybe. I'm thinking.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the motivation.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think I might have an in with Carrie Lake. We can have a sit down, maybe have a wine summit.
Oh my gosh. All right. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton broke down the signs pointing to a potential victory for former Donald Trump. He mentioned that a fraction of the people, that the fraction of the people satisfied with the country's current direction, President Biden's current approval numbers, and a strong voter registration numbers among Republicans in swing states are all things that signal Trump's reelection next week. If the win comes next week for Republicans, Donald Trump wins next week, the signs all along will have been obvious, he said,
Yeah.
which means they're obvious to him right now. It's
Right.
just, are the
Yeah.
polls right?
Right. Yeah. They're obvious to him. Will it result in the win? We have to wait for the win. But we're seeing that shift. I mean, I'm looking at the polls. I'm trying to find the holes in the polls. I'm trying to look for, because quite often you and I would be at this point going, okay, here's a path to victory for the Republican. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the polls in recent years have really favored Democrats. They did in 2016 and in 2020. And it's like, okay, there could be a victory here and there could be. And in 2016, of course, he greatly outperformed the polls. And but what we also look at, what we've always looked at, the movement of the polls, and the fact that now that movement is across all pollsters. even in the polls where she's leading, she has lost the edge that she once had. So she has her energy, her polling performance has dropped across the entire spectrum of pollsters. And so that includes all methodologies with very few exceptions there. And I don't, I haven't seen anyone, that whole, well, here's a path to victory. Here's how she could win. I haven't seen anybody. Maybe it'll happen this weekend. Maybe it happened and I haven't seen it. I just didn't see it. But typically it's, well, here's the states that she's definitely going to win and blah, 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 and here's her path to victory. I haven't seen that breakdown. Especially in the last few weeks, I haven't seen it. Again, maybe they start doing that this weekend. I don't see, you look at the polls, and by the way, the Senate races in states like Michigan, and she's just barely got an edge in Michigan on the RCP average over Trump. I don't buy it. If he wins Pennsylvania, I believe he wins Michigan. And if he gets Michigan, I think there's a good chance. And also the Wisconsin numbers there, I think there's a decent chance. I have more confidence this morning that he wins Wisconsin if he wins Michigan. And now you add in the increased performance of the polls there in North Carolina and what's happening in Nevada. And while Nevada's only 6 points, it doesn't matter. It all adds up. And we're looking for that 270. And I still believe that there is a fairly strong chance that we get to 270, even without Pennsylvania and Arizona having their final tallies reported from their states, as they have. Again, we think it's ridiculous, but they've already said ahead of time they don't expect to have the results that night. I still think it's a possibility, a fairly strong possibility, that he reaches 270 without those two states before they get their polling done. I think he will win both Arizona and Pennsylvania.
We've talked a lot about the Trump surrogates out there that have done such a great job. I do want to play just a couple of few seconds of Byron Donald's last night.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Wisconsin, I've been in Madison, I've been in Milwaukee, but I've never been to Green Bay. This feels good. And what makes me feel really good is that in 6 days, Green Bay is going to lead Wisconsin to make sure Donald Trump's the next president of the United States. That's right. Barack Obama, once upon a time, he called us bitter clingers. Hillary Clinton has called us deplorables. Kamala Harris refers to us as fascists. And Joe Biden called us garbage. But we're none of those things. We are red-blooded Americans, and we're taking America back in 6 days. Let me tell you what garbage really is. Garbage is massively overspending and doing dumb things with an economy to take away the purchasing power of the American people. That's garbage. Let me tell you what garbage is. Garbage is leaving our southern border wide open so the drug cartels move illegal aliens and fentanyl into our country. That's garbage. Garbage is watching young girls be sold into sex slavery and losing 350,000 children in the United States. That's garbage. Garbage is watching Afghanistan fall and America looking absolutely ridiculous and leaderless. That is garbage. But we got a guy who's going to fix it all. He's going to fire Kamala Harris with your help, and he's going to be the 47th president of these United States. And his name is Donald J. Trump.
And that was in Green Bay last night.
Yeah.
Byron Donald's. He's got a great political future, I think, ahead of him.
Again, the surrogate team right now is all cylinders firing. They're just doing everything they're supposed to do. And
boy,
everything
did you think we'd be saying that?
No,
6 months ago.
No. Because, look, when he announced November 15th of 2022 that he was going to run again, one of my concerns is how he's going to populate his cabinet. How he's going to populate the White House staff. Because there have been so many people that were in and then out, and then they're writing a book, and they're enemies, and then right now, it's like get in line because a lot of people would be looking to serve on that cabinet and or in that White House on that staff. And you have to build that consensus. One of the things we look for, if you're going to be effective as a president, if you're going to do the things that we believe you should be doing as a president, you're going to have to build that consensus. Now, well, that's a whole different game. After the election, it's, you're going to have to go to work. And we'll see, again, how much they can get done if he does win. But you've got to win first. And that's what we've always said. You've got to win. Everything's got to be about 24. The GOP at the midterm, coming out of that midterm, it was like, you got to focus. Everything's got to be. And then it was all over the place. The infighting and everything else.
Yeah.
It was honestly.
It was bad.
It really was. It was like all the kids on the island were trying to grab the conch for themselves. Lord of the Flies. That's
why I laughed.
It was horrible. And now you see it. What you didn't see at the convention was the establishment Republican, up there going around like Massey. No, you saw the future of the party. You saw people like Byron Donald. You saw a really great VP, J.D. Vance. You saw Ramaswamy. You saw the future of the party, and that's a good thing.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Yes, the campaigns move forward as the president yesterday, Joe Biden, is eating children at the Halloween party. Did you see that? Yeah. Biting. It's like biting. I believe that Biden is a vampire. Let's let one go.
A vampire zombie.
A vampire zombie.
Yeah. You know what else I thought would be a cool movie? Trump NATO. Right?
We don't mean NATO, the group.
Right. Exactly. We got to be clear.
It's a D, not a T.
Yes, exactly. Instead of Sharknado, Trump NATO.
Yes. Best fact check yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's a parody fact check.
Yeah.
All right. On Trump in the garbage truck. You ready for this?
All right.
All right. Here's the fact check. Trump in the dump truck or the garbage truck.
Uh-huh.
This is a staged photo op. Donald Trump refers to it as his garbage truck, but he does not actually own it. Not only is he not employed as a sanitation engineer, he does not possess the requisite license to operate that garbage truck. And then the person who wrote it, she puts beneath, she writes, I hope no one sees this tweet, because if this goes viral, I'm going to get swarmed by people who think I'm serious.
Exactly. Oh, no.
That's
that
the kind
happen.
of fact check you would get.
Exactly.
On MSNBC or CNN.
Yeah. No, and we've seen it happen. We've seen people make fun of the liberal fact checking and then themselves get it handed to them. Yeah. It's great. That was fun. That's
what
great.
lunacy.
Wow. Well,
we'll do it again.
That's it for October.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Time to start November.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.